My name is Beverly 58, a successful real estate business owner and mother of 2 adult children. I've always been there for them, especially my daughter Amanda and her new husband David. When they couldn't afford their dream home, I paid for it in full, a $1.2 million gift of love. Then came the text that shattered everything. You are not coming with us to Europe. My husband prefers this vacation to be a family vacation only. Before I continue my story, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Take a second to comment below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you enjoy stories about family relationships and healing from betrayal. I was widowed when I was 42 years old. My husband Thomas died suddenly of a heart attack, leaving me with our 2 children, Amanda, who was 16 at the time, and Jason, who was 20 and in his 2nd year of college. It was the most devastating time of my life, but I had to stay strong for my kids. Thomas had been the primary breadwinner with his engineering firm, while I had been working part-time in real estate. When he died, I threw myself into building my business to support our family. Those first few years were incredibly difficult, juggling grief, parenting a teenager, and growing a business, but somehow we made it through. Amanda took her father's death particularly hard. She had always been Daddy's little girl, and losing him during her formative teenage years created a void that I tried desperately to fill. I made sure to attend every school event, help with college applications, and create special mother-daughter traditions to keep us close. Over the next 15 years, I built my real estate company into one of the most successful in our area. What started as a necessity became a passion, and I discovered I had a talent for property development and investments. By the time I turned 55, I had accumulated substantial wealth, far more than I had ever imagined possible after becoming a widow. Jason had always been independent even before his father died. He completed college, got his MBA, and started his own tech consulting business. He married his college sweetheart, Sarah, and they now have 2 beautiful children. While we're not as emotionally close as Amanda and I, he calls regularly and brings his family to visit several times a year. Amanda followed a different path. She struggled a bit after college, trying different careers, before eventually settling into marketing. She was always more emotionally dependent on me, calling daily and often stopping by for dinner or to talk about her problems. I never minded. I loved being there for her and treasured our close relationship. When Amanda met David at a work event when she was 28, I was thrilled. She had dated casually but never found someone special. David was handsome, charming, and seemed to adore her. He worked in finance and presented himself as successful and ambitious. Something about him made me slightly uneasy. Perhaps it was the way his smile never quite reached his eyes, or how he subtly dominated conversations. But I pushed those feelings aside. My daughter was happy, and that's what mattered. They got engaged after just 8 months of dating. I remember suggesting they might want to take more time to get to know each other, but Amanda dismissed my concerns. "When you know, Mom," she said, showing off her diamond ring. "David is perfect for me." Their wedding was lavish, far beyond what they could afford. When Amanda tearfully confessed they couldn't manage the kind of celebration they wanted, I offered to pay for most of it. It cost over $50,000, but seeing my daughter radiant in her wedding dress made it worthwhile, or so I thought at the time. After the wedding, I noticed subtle changes in Amanda. Our daily calls became less frequent. She often canceled our lunch dates at the last minute. When we did get together, she would check her phone constantly, explaining that David might need her. When I asked about their newlywed life, her answers were vague, but always emphasized how wonderful David was. I live in a beautiful 5-bedroom home that feels too large for just me and my golden retriever, Rusty. After Thomas died, I couldn't bear to sell our family home, so I renovated it instead, creating a peaceful sanctuary. I have a lovely garden where I grow vegetables and flowers, a hobby that brings me joy and calm. In the evenings, Rusty and I often sit on the back porch watching the sunset and enjoying the quiet. It's a good life, but sometimes the emptiness of the house reminds me how much I miss having my family around. I've filled my days with work friends and volunteer activities, but nothing compares to the warmth of family gatherings and the special connection I once had with my daughter. Amanda and David had been married for about 2 years when they started complaining about their small apartment. Every time they visited, David would make comments about needing more space, especially as they planned to start a family soon. They would browse real estate listings, constantly sighing over homes they couldn't afford. "The market is so unfair," David would say. "People our age can't possibly save enough for a down payment with these prices, especially in a good neighborhood." I understood their frustration. My business gave me insight into how difficult it had become for young couples to purchase their first home. Property values in our area had skyrocketed while wages hadn't kept pace. I had been fortunate to buy our family home years ago before the major price increases. One Sunday afternoon, Amanda called me, excitement bubbling in her voice. "Mom, we found it, the perfect house. Can we come over and tell you about it?" They arrived an hour later with a folder full of photos and printouts. The house was indeed beautiful. A 4-bedroom colonial in an excellent neighborhood with good schools. It had a spacious yard, updated kitchen, and even a home office space. "It's everything we want," Amanda said, her eyes shining. "But it's way above our budget," David finished. "We can't even qualify for a mortgage that size with our current incomes." I looked through the listing. The house was priced at $1.2 million, which was indeed steep for a first home, especially for a marketing manager and a mid-level finance professional. "Maybe you could look for something smaller to start," I suggested gently. "Your first home doesn't have to be your forever home." David shook his head firmly. "In this market, it makes more sense to buy what we really want, rather than wasting money on something we'll outgrow in a few years. The real estate taxes and closing costs alone make multiple moves financially unsound." There was an uncomfortable silence, and I realized they were waiting for me to offer help. I had always planned to assist them with their first home purchase, but I had been thinking more along the lines of helping with the down payment, not buying a luxury home outright. "I could help with a down payment," I offered. "Maybe 50%. That would reduce your monthly mortgage significantly." Amanda looked disappointed, but David immediately leaned forward. "That's incredibly generous, Beverly. Thank you for considering it." His tone was polite, but something in his expression made me uneasy. Later that evening, Amanda called me in tears. "Mom, we talked to the mortgage broker. Even with your help on the down payment, our debt-to-income ratio is still too high for the loan. David's student loans and our wedding debt are hurting us." I felt torn. On one hand, I had more than enough money to help them. On the other hand, I wondered if this house was truly what they needed rather than what they wanted. But hearing my daughter so upset broke my heart. "Let me think about it, sweetie," I said. After a sleepless night, I made a decision. I could purchase the house outright and work out an arrangement for them to buy it from me over time when their finances improved. It wasn't what I had planned to do with my money, but I rationalized that it was an investment in my daughter's happiness and future. When I called Amanda with my offer, she screamed with joy. "Mom, are you serious? You would do that for us, David. Mom's going to buy us the house." I heard David's voice in the background, and then he got on the phone. "Beverly, I don't know what to say. This is beyond generous. We'll pay you back every penny, I promise." We met with my attorney the following week to draw up the paperwork. The agreement stated that I would purchase the house in full, and they would live there rent-free for 2 years. After that, they would either begin making payments to me at a favorable interest rate or secure their own mortgage to buy the house from me. The title would remain in my name until they purchased it. The closing went smoothly, and I wrote a check for $1.2 million. Watching Amanda and David receive the keys to their beautiful new home filled me with joy. They hugged me tightly, both with tears in their eyes. "You've changed our lives, Mom," Amanda whispered. "We'll never forget this." "This means everything to us," David added. "You'll always have a place in our home and our lives. That's a promise." I believed them completely at the time. Looking back, I should have recognized that their gratitude was focused on the house itself rather than my sacrifice to provide it. But love has a way of blinding us to warning signs, especially when it comes to our children. The first few months after Amanda and David moved into their new home seemed wonderful. They invited me over for dinner to see how they were settling in and decorated for Christmas with such enthusiasm. Amanda texted me photos almost daily. A new sofa they purchased, curtains they hung, the garden they were planning for spring. I felt included in their life and was happy to see my investment bringing them such joy. But by early spring, I noticed a subtle shift. My invitations to lunch were met with excuses about being busy. When I suggested coming over to help with their garden, Amanda said they had decided to hire a landscaper instead. My calls went to voicemail more often, and Amanda's texts became less frequent. For my 58th birthday in April, I invited both of my children and their families for a small celebration at my home. Jason, Sarah, and the kids arrived early to help set up. Amanda and David came an hour late, with David immediately checking his watch repeatedly. "Sorry we can't stay long," he announced before even wishing me happy birthday. "We have plans with my colleagues later." Amanda looked uncomfortable but didn't contradict him. They gave me an expensive handbag that seemed hastily wrapped and left after barely an hour, missing the cake entirely. "What's going on with them?" Jason asked after they left. "David barely spoke to anyone, and Amanda seems different." I defended them automatically. "They're just busy with the new house. It's a big adjustment." "Mom, it's more than that," Jason insisted. "Amanda hardly asks about your life anymore. And did you notice how David kept referring to their house? Not once did he acknowledge that you bought it." I brushed off his concerns, but they lingered in my mind. A few weeks later, I stopped by their house unannounced with some flowers for their garden. As I approached the front door, I could hear them arguing inside. "Your mother is always hovering," David's voice carried through the window. "Can't she understand we have our own life now?" "She just wants to be involved," Amanda replied, her voice sounding smaller than I remembered. "She did buy us this house, David." "And she never lets us forget it," he snapped. "I'm tired of her using that to control our lives." I froze on the doorstep, flowers in hand, heart pounding. Control their lives. Is that how they viewed my gift? I quietly returned to my car and drove away, leaving the flowers on the passenger seat. I didn't mention the incident to Amanda, but it haunted me. My friend Maria noticed my distraction during our weekly coffee date. After some gentle prodding, I confessed what I had overheard. "Beverly," she said carefully, "I've been concerned about this situation from the beginning. $1 million house is an extremely generous gift, but sometimes such large gifts can complicate relationships. Have you considered that they might feel indebted in a way that's becoming uncomfortable for them?" "But that's not my intention at all," I protested. "I just wanted to help them." "I know that," Maria said. "But David might see it differently. Men like him often struggle with accepting financial help from in-laws. It challenges their role as providers. I considered her words, but ultimately dismissed them. David had been enthusiastic about accepting my help. If anything, he had encouraged it more than Amanda had. As summer progressed, I noticed Amanda posting photos on social media of expensive additions to their home, a hot tub designer furniture, a complete landscaping renovation that must have cost thousands. None of these improvements had been mentioned to me despite our legal agreement that major changes to the property should be discussed since I still held the title. I called Amanda to ask about the renovations casually. "Oh, those," she said dismissively. "David got a bonus, so we decided to make the place really ours. You don't mind, do you? It increases the property value." "I don't mind the improvements," I said carefully, but our agreement was that you'd consult me about major changes. "Mom," she sighed, "it's our home. We need to be able to make decisions without checking with you first. David's already sensitive about the whole arrangement." I backed down immediately, not wanting to create tension. "Of course, sweetheart. The house looks beautiful." When Thanksgiving approached, I assumed we would continue our family tradition of celebrating at my house. I had hosted every year since Thomas died, with both children and their families gathering around my dining table. "Actually, Mom," Amanda said when I brought it up, "we're hosting this year. The new house has such a perfect dining room for entertaining." "That sounds lovely," I replied, genuinely pleased they wanted to host. "What can I bring?" There was an awkward pause. "Well, the thing is, we're just having David's family this year. His parents are coming from Chicago and his sister and her kids. We thought it would be good to establish our own traditions." The hurt was immediate and deep. "I see," I managed to say. "Perhaps we could do something the weekend before or after." "Definitely," Amanda said quickly. "I'll check with David and get back to you." She never did. I spent Thanksgiving alone for the first time in decades, turning down Jason's last-minute invitation when he learned I had been excluded. I didn't want to drive a wedge between the siblings. Later that evening, I saw photos on social media of the elaborate Thanksgiving celebration at Amanda and David's home. The table was set beautifully, the food looked professional, and everyone was smiling. The caption read, "First Thanksgiving in our new home with family. So blessed." I stared at the word family for a long time, the exclusion stinging more than I wanted to admit. It was clear that in their minds I was no longer part of their inner circle, despite having provided the very home they were so proudly showcasing. As the holidays approached, I found myself feeling increasingly disconnected from Amanda. Our phone calls had become brief and superficial, and I hadn't been invited to their home since they moved in 6 months earlier. I missed my daughter terribly and worried about the growing distance between us. One evening in early December, while scrolling through travel websites, I had an idea. Perhaps a family vacation could help rebuild our bonds. I had always dreamed of taking my children to Europe, something we couldn't afford when they were growing up. Now I had the means to make it happen. I called Jason first to gauge his interest. "A family trip to Europe." "That sounds amazing, Mom. Sarah and I have been wanting to take the kids abroad. When are you thinking?" "Next summer," I replied. 2 weeks visiting Italy, France, and Spain. All expenses paid, of course." "You don't have to do that," Jason protested. "We can contribute." "I want to," I insisted. "I've been saving for something special, and creating memories with my family seems perfect." Jason's enthusiasm gave me confidence to call Amanda. To my surprise, she answered immediately and seemed genuinely excited by the proposal. "Europe." "Really?" "David and I have been talking about going." His colleagues are always posting these amazing European vacations. I thought 3 countries would be nice, I explained. We could start in Italy, then France, and end in Spain. First-class flights, luxury accommodations, the works. That sounds incredible, Mom. Let me talk to David and call you back. David called himself the next day, which was unusual. Beverly, this trip sounds fantastic. Very generous of you. Amanda and I are definitely interested. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into planning. I set up a shared document where everyone could add places they wanted to visit. I scheduled monthly family meetings via video call to discuss the itinerary. I researched the best accommodations and activities in each location. The first planning meeting went well. Jason and his family couldn't join because of the kids' bedtime, but Amanda and David participated enthusiastically. David particularly wanted to visit vineyards in Tuscany and suggested several expensive restaurants in Paris. Amanda was excited about shopping in Milan and seeing the art in Barcelona. I began making reservations, placing substantial deposits on luxury villas and exclusive experiences. By February, I had invested nearly $30,000 in non-refundable deposits. The total trip budget was approaching $100,000, but I considered it worthwhile to create special memories with my family. As winter turned to spring, I noticed David becoming less engaged in the planning. During our March meeting, he barely contributed and seemed distracted, checking his phone repeatedly. "Is everything okay?" I asked. "You seem preoccupied, David." "Just busy with work," he replied without looking up. "Amanda can handle the details." After that meeting, Amanda's communication about the trip became sporadic. She stopped adding to the shared document and often rescheduled our planning calls. When I asked specific questions about their preferences, her answers were vague. "Whatever you think is best, Mom. We trust your judgment." In April, just 3 months before our scheduled departure, I called Amanda to confirm some final details. The flights needed to be ticketed, and I had to finalize our villa rentals. "Hey, Mom," she answered, sounding distant. "Can I call you back?" "We're in the middle of something." "This will just take a minute," I said. "I need to confirm your flight preferences. The first-class options are different depending on the airline." "Oh, either is fine," she replied, clearly distracted. "Listen, can we talk about this later? David and I are actually discussing the trip right now and need to sort some things out." "Is there a problem?" I asked, suddenly concerned. No problem," she said quickly. "We'll call you tomorrow, okay?" But they didn't call the next day, or the day after. When I tried calling, it went straight to voicemail. I sent texts that showed as read but received no response. I finally called Jason in frustration. "Have you heard from your sister? She's gone radio silent about the trip, and I need to finalize everything." "Actually," Jason said hesitantly, "Amanda mentioned something to Sarah last week that concerned me. She said they might be changing their plans for the summer, but she didn't elaborate. I assumed she had discussed it with you." "She hasn't said a word to me," I replied, anxiety building. "And I've already put down thousands in deposits." "Want me to reach out to her?" Jason offered. "No, let me try once more," I said. "I'm sure there's just been a misunderstanding." That evening, I called Amanda again. This time she answered after several rings, her voice cool and formal. "Hi, Mom. Sorry I haven't called back. Things have been hectic." "Amanda, is everything all right with the trip? I need to finalize the arrangements, and you've been unresponsive." "Yes, about that," she said, a new edge to her voice. "David and I have been talking and, well, we'll have to get back to you very soon. Some work things have come up." "What kind of work things? The trip is in less than 3 months, and everything is nearly set. If there's a problem, I need to know now." "I said we'll get back to you." she repeated almost coldly. "I need to go now." Before I could respond, she hung up. I sat staring at my phone in disbelief. This wasn't like my daughter, or at least it wasn't like the daughter I thought I knew. I tried to convince myself there was a reasonable explanation. Perhaps David was facing a work crisis, or Amanda had a project with a tight deadline. But deep down, I sensed something more troubling was brewing. Later that night, Jason called me. "Mom, I spoke with Amanda. She was evasive. Something doesn't feel right. She kept saying she needs to handle things her way and that I shouldn't get involved." "Did she say anything specific about the trip?" I asked. "Just that plans might change. Mom, I'm worried about her. She doesn't sound like herself." I was worried too, but I had no idea how justified that worry would prove to be. The devastating text message arrived at 9:47 p.m., exactly 1 month before our scheduled departure for Europe. I had just settled into my favorite chair with a glass of wine and a book when my phone chimed. The message was from Amanda. "Mom, David, and I have been thinking about the Europe trip. You are not coming with us to Europe. My husband prefers this vacation to be a family vacation, only just the two of us. We'll still be going on the dates we planned. Thanks for understanding." I read the message once, twice, 3 times, certain I must be misunderstanding. The words were so cold, so callous. They couldn't possibly be from my daughter. But there they were, plain as day on my screen, sent from Amanda's number. My hands shook as I tried to call her. The call went straight to voicemail. I tried again with the same result. I sent a text. "Amanda, please call me. I need to talk to you about this message." No response. I called David's phone. Also voicemail. I even tried their home number, hearing my own voice on the answering machine I had gifted them as a housewarming present. "You've reached Amanda and David. We can't come to the phone right now." In a panic, I called Jason. It was late, but he answered immediately. "Mom, what's wrong? You sound upset." "Jason," my voice cracked as tears began to fall. "Amanda just texted me. She and David are going to Europe without me, using the plans I made, using the reservations I paid for." "What?" His shock sounded genuine. "That can't be right. Let me call her." 20 minutes later, he called back, his voice tight with anger. "I couldn't reach her either, but she just texted me. She said it's complicated and that David feels they need time alone as a couple. She said they've been planning this for weeks and thought you'd understand." Understand. I was moving from hurt to anger now. Understand that they're taking a trip I planned and paid for, that they waited until the last minute to tell me after I've spent thousands on non-refundable deposits, that they broke the news in a text message. "It's unbelievable." Jason agreed. "This isn't the sister I know. Mom, I hate to say this, but David has changed her. The Amanda we knew would never do something like this." I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the text message floating before me. "You are not coming with us to Europe. My husband prefers this vacation to be a family vacation only." Family vacation only. The phrase cut deep. After everything I had done for them, I wasn't considered family. As dawn broke, I sat at my kitchen table, a cold cup of coffee before me, Rusty's head in my lap. The initial shock had given way to clarity. This wasn't just about a vacation. This was about the house, the wedding, the countless other gifts and sacrifices I had made. This was about being used for my money while being pushed aside once it was obtained. They never intended to include me. I whispered to Rusty, who looked up with sympathetic eyes. "They've been planning this all along." The realization was like ice water in my veins. For years, I had been blind to what was happening. David had identified me as a source of financial support and had methodically worked to extract as much as possible while simultaneously distancing Amanda from me. And my daughter, my own child, had allowed it, perhaps even embraced it. As painful as this awakening was, it also brought a strange sense of resolve. I had been a successful businesswoman for nearly 2 decades. I hadn't built my company by being naive or allowing myself to be manipulated. It was time to bring that same strength and clarity to my personal life. I opened my laptop and began making calls, first to my attorney, then to my financial advisor. By noon, I had a clear understanding of my options and a plan of action. The house was still legally mine. Amanda and David had made no payments toward purchasing it despite our agreement that they would begin the process after 2 years. According to my attorney, I had every right to sell it, especially since they had made unauthorized modifications without consulting me. The Europe trip was more complicated. Many of the deposits were non-refundable, but some could be modified. I spent the afternoon canceling what I could and transferring other reservations solely to my name. If I wanted to go to Europe alone, I could. The thought was both liberating and heartbreaking. My financial advisor revealed something else that shocked me. Over the past 2 years, I had been paying several bills for Amanda and David that went far beyond the house. Insurance policies, car payments, even credit card minimums. They had been set up as automatic payments from one of my accounts shortly after I purchased their house during a period when Amanda had access to my financial information while helping me reorganize my affairs. "You're saying they've been using my money without my knowledge?" I asked in disbelief. "It appears that way," my advisor confirmed. "The amounts have been increasing steadily. Last month alone, the total was over $5,000. The betrayal cut deep, but it strengthened my resolve. By the end of that long emotional day, I had canceled all automatic payments to their accounts and instructed my attorney to prepare formal documentation regarding the house. I didn't sleep that night either, but this time it wasn't from shock or grief. It was from a growing determination to reclaim my dignity and self-respect. I had given out of love, but I would not allow myself to be exploited any longer. As the sun rose on a new day, I made one final call. To a real estate agent I trusted. "I have a property I need to list," I told her, "as soon as possible." The next morning I felt strangely calm as I drove to my attorney's office. After our conversation the previous day, he had prepared the necessary paperwork to reclaim full control of the house and formally notify Amanda and David that they would need to vacate the property. "Are you sure about this, Beverly?" he asked as I reviewed the documents. "Once we send this certified letter, there's no turning back. It will likely end your relationship with your daughter, at least temporarily." I took a deep breath. The relationship as I thought it was has already ended. What remains is unhealthy for all of us. They've been taking advantage of me, Mark. I need to establish boundaries. "I understand," he said, sliding the papers toward me. "Just be prepared for backlash. People rarely react well when financial support is withdrawn, even when they've abused it." I signed the documents with a steady hand. The letter stated that I was exercising my legal right as the property owner to sell the house. It gave Amanda and David 60 days to vacate, which was generous, considering they had no legal claim to the property. It also detailed the unauthorized modifications they had made and the undisclosed financial arrangements they had set up using my accounts. My real estate agent, Patricia, had already assessed the market value of the house. With the improvements Amanda and David had made, it was now worth approximately $1.4 million. She was confident she could sell it quickly in the current market. "Do you want me to wait until they've moved out to list it?" she asked. "No," I replied firmly. "List it immediately. They need to understand this is happening, not just a threat. Over the next few days, I systematically untangled my financial affairs from Amanda and David's. I closed joint accounts, removed automatic payments, and updated my estate planning documents. Jason offered his unwavering support, even helping me create a spreadsheet of everything I had provided for his sister and brother-in-law over the years. The total was staggering. Nearly $2 million when the house wedding and ongoing expenses were tallied. "I had no idea," Jason said, staring at the figure. "Mom, this is beyond generous. It's excessive." "I know that now," I admitted. "I thought I was helping her build a life, but I was just enabling their entitlement." 5 days after mailing the certified letter, my doorbell rang at 7:30 a.m. I opened it to find Amanda on my doorstep, her face contorted with rage, the letter clutched in her hand. "What the hell is this?" she demanded, pushing past me into the house. "You're selling our house. You can't do that." "It's not your house, Amanda," I replied, closing the door calmly. "It never was. It's my house that you've been living in rent-free while making unauthorized modifications and secretly using my money for your expenses." "We had an agreement," she shouted. "You said we could buy it from you. Yes, beginning 2 years ago. You've made no effort to do so. Instead, you've been draining my accounts in other ways." Her face flushed. "That's not true. Those were expenses you offered to cover." "Really? When did I offer to pay for David's golf club membership, or your spa treatments, or the 3 credit cards you've been paying minimums on using my account?" She faltered for a moment, then rallied. "You've always said you wanted to help us. You're wealthy, Mom. You don't need that money." "This isn't about needing the money. This is about respect and honesty, neither of which you and David have shown me." I kept my voice level, though my heart was racing. The final straw was the Europe trip. Using my plans and my money while explicitly excluding me, that message showed me exactly where I stand with you two. "That was David's idea," she said quickly. "I didn't want to send it." "But you did send it, Amanda, and you were going to go on that trip without me using reservations I paid for." "You're overreacting," she insisted. "It's just a vacation. We can talk about it." "No, it's not just a vacation. It's a pattern of behavior. You take what I offer, then push me aside. You accept my generosity, then resent me for it. You call me family when you need something, then exclude me when you don't." Tears filled her eyes, but I couldn't tell if they were from genuine remorse or frustration at losing her financial support. "What about our future? Where are we supposed to live? You and David have good jobs. You can afford a nice apartment or a more modest home like most couples your age. I've been enabling a lifestyle beyond your means, and that ends now." "David will be furious," she whispered. "I'm sure he will, but that's not my concern anymore." "How can you say that I'm your daughter?" "Yes, you are, and I love you, Amanda. But loving you doesn't mean I have to accept being used and discarded." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. 20 minutes later, my phone exploded with calls and texts from David. I declined the calls and didn't read the messages. Whatever he had to say, I wasn't ready to hear it. Later that afternoon, Jason arrived. "Amanda called me," he explained. "She's beside herself. David is apparently on a rampage." "Are they blaming me?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Of course they are. According to Amanda, you've betrayed them and are destroying their lives out of spite." He shook his head. "I told her she needed to take responsibility for her actions. That didn't go over well." "I'm sorry to put you in the middle," I said. "Don't apologize. You're doing the right thing, Mom. It should have happened long ago, honestly." That evening, David showed up at my door demanding to speak with me. I refused to let him in, talking through the security chain. "You can't do this to us," he hissed, "after everything we've done for you." The absurdity of his statement almost made me laugh. "What exactly have you done for me, David?" "We've included you in our lives, let you be part of our success." "My success, you mean? My money? My house?" His face darkened. "You'll regret this. Amanda is devastated." "Amanda will survive, as will you. You're both adults with good incomes. Figure it out." As I closed the door on his angry face, I felt a surprising sense of peace. For the first time in years, I wasn't bending over backwards to please my daughter and her husband. I wasn't sacrificing my own well-being for theirs. I was standing up for myself, and it felt right. The months following my confrontation with Amanda and David were among the most difficult of my life. The house sold quickly, as Patricia had predicted, for $145 million. Amanda and David refused to cooperate with showings, but Patricia worked around their resistance, scheduling open houses when they were known to be away and giving prospective buyers honest context about the situation. When the closing date approached and they still hadn't moved out, my attorney had to send a formal eviction notice. They finally vacated the property 3 days before closing, leaving it in disarray. Small, petty damages that spoke volumes about their state of mind. The new owners were understanding and didn't request concessions, which was a small mercy. Throughout this time, Amanda and David deployed every emotional weapon in their arsenal. They alternated between rage-pleading guilt-tripping and occasional apologetic gestures that never felt sincere. They enlisted family friends to call on their behalf, created false narratives on social media about me abandoning them, and even showed up at my workplace once, causing a scene that embarrassed my colleagues. Jason remained steadfastly supportive. "They're trying to wear you down," he observed. "Stay strong, Mom. This is exactly why you needed to set boundaries in the first place." Maria suggested I see a therapist to help process the emotional toll, which turned out to be excellent advice. Dr. Elaine helped me work through my feelings of guilt betrayal and grief for the relationship I thought I had with my daughter. "What you're experiencing is a form of parental estrangement," she explained during one session. "But it's important to recognize that you didn't cause this. You're responding to unhealthy patterns that were already established." Through therapy, I began to recognize how my relationship with Amanda had become codependent over the years. After her father died, I had tried to fill the void by giving her everything, never setting proper boundaries or expectations. This created a dynamic where my value was tied to what I could provide, rather than who I was. "Your generosity came from love," Dr. Elaine said, "but it created an imbalance that became toxic. Healthy relationships have reciprocity and respect." 4 months after selling the house, I made a decision that surprised even me. I would take the Europe trip I had planned alone. Many of the reservations were still in my name, and the idea of traveling solo, while initially intimidating, became increasingly appealing. "Are you sure about this, Mom?" Jason asked when I told him my plans. "Europe is a big adventure to take on your own." "I'm sure," I replied with newfound confidence. "I spent months planning this trip. I know exactly where I want to go and what I want to see. And honestly, I think I need this. Time away from all the drama, a chance to rediscover who I am beyond being Amanda's mother." As my departure date approached, I felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. I had never traveled internationally by myself. Thomas and I had always talked about seeing Europe together someday, but we had prioritized raising our children and building financial security instead. Now at 58, I was finally fulfilling that dream, though not in the way I had imagined. The night before my flight, I received an unexpected call from Amanda. We hadn't spoken directly in weeks, communicating only through terse texts when absolutely necessary. "Mom," she said, her voice small and uncertain. "I heard from Jason that you're still going to Europe tomorrow." "Yes, I am." "Alone." "Yes, Amanda. Alone." There was a long pause. "I'm sorry," she finally said. "For everything. I know you don't believe me, but I am. David and we got caught up in a lifestyle we couldn't afford. We took advantage of your generosity. I see that now." I wanted to believe her. Part of me desperately wanted to accept this olive branch and repair our relationship, but experience had taught me caution. "I appreciate your apology," I said carefully. "But trust takes time to rebuild. I need this trip to think and heal." "I understand," she replied. "Have a safe journey, Mom." The first week in Italy was transformative. Florence's art and architecture took my breath away. I wandered the Uffizi Gallery for hours, marveling at masterpieces I had only seen in books. In Tuscany, I joined a small group wine tour, making friends with a Canadian couple and an Australian woman also traveling solo after her divorce. There's nothing like traveling to remind you of who you are beneath all your roles and responsibilities, said Margot, my Australian friend, as we sipped Chianti and watched the sunset over the vineyards. "Here, you're not someone's mother or ex-wife or colleague. You're just you." Her words resonated deeply. For decades, I had defined myself primarily as a mother, then as a provider. Here, thousands of miles from home, I was rediscovering other facets of my identity. My curiosity, my appreciation for beauty, my ability to connect with strangers and navigate unfamiliar situations. In Rome, I received a surprising text from Jason. "Sarah, the kids and I have been talking. Would it ruin your solo adventure if we joined you in Paris next week? We can get our own hotel if you prefer." The offer touched me deeply. "I'd love that," I replied. "Nothing would make me happier." Our time in Paris became the highlight of my trip. Watching my grandchildren's eyes widen at the Eiffel Tower, sharing rich hot chocolate at charming cafes, and simply walking the streets together created memories I would cherish forever. Jason and Sarah were wonderful companions, respectful of my independence while offering companionship and support. On our last evening together, while the children were sleeping and Sarah was calling home to check on their pets, Jason and I shared a bottle of wine on the balcony of their hotel room. "I've never seen you like this, Mom," he observed. "You seem lighter, more yourself." "I feel more myself," I admitted. "This trip has shown me how much I've neglected my own needs and interests over the years. I've been so focused on taking care of everyone else that I forgot to nurture my own spirit." "You deserve this happiness," he said firmly. "And for what it's worth, I think what you did back home was necessary. Amanda needed this wake-up call." "Have you spoken to her recently?" I asked. "Yes, actually. They found an apartment they can afford. It's not what they're used to, but it's nice enough. David is... well, David. But Amanda seems to be doing some serious reflection. She asked a lot of questions about you and seemed genuinely concerned about your well-being." This news brought mixed emotions. I was glad Amanda was finding her way, but I remained cautious about rekindling our relationship. The wounds were still too fresh, the trust too broken. When I returned home after 3 incredible weeks abroad, I found my perspective permanently altered. My house felt different. No longer a place defined by absence and loneliness, but a sanctuary of my own choosing. I began redecorating, replacing furniture Thomas had selected with pieces that reflected my own taste. I converted Amanda's old bedroom into an art studio, something I had always wanted but never prioritized. 2 months after my return, Amanda reached out again asking if we could meet for coffee. I agreed, choosing a neutral location, a cafe halfway between our homes. She arrived looking different than I remembered, less polished, more authentic somehow. Her designer clothes and perfect makeup had been replaced by a simple sweater and jeans, hair pulled back in a casual ponytail. "You look wonderful, Mom," she said as we sat down. "Travel agrees with you." "Thank you. How are you settling into the apartment?" "It's an adjustment," she admitted, "but not in all bad ways. It's making us prioritize what really matters. David's struggling more than I am with the changes." We talked carefully for nearly 2 hours, navigating around the most painful topics while finding moments of genuine connection. She asked about my trip, showing sincere interest in my experiences. I asked about her job, which she revealed she actually enjoyed more than I had realized. As we prepared to leave, she hesitantly brought up the future. "I know things can't go back to how they were before, Mom, and they shouldn't. That wasn't healthy for any of us. But I hope we can build something new, something better, if you're willing to try." I looked at my daughter, this complex, flawed human being who had caused me such pain, but whom I still loved deeply. "I'm willing to try," I said, slowly, with boundaries. "That's all I can ask for," she replied, tears in her eyes. Over the following year, Amanda and I gradually rebuilt our relationship on new, healthier terms. We started with occasional coffee dates, then progressed to lunch every few weeks. I met David again after 6 months, and while our interaction was stiff and formal, he made an effort to be respectful. They eventually found their financial footing. Amanda received a promotion, and David switched companies for a better position. They purchased a modest townhouse that they could genuinely afford with a conventional mortgage. When they invited me to their housewarming, it felt different from before, a genuine inclusion rather than a performance. The most profound change, however, was within myself. I had learned painful but necessary lessons about boundaries, self-respect, and the true nature of giving. I continued traveling, taking at least 2 international trips each year. I developed new friendships and rekindled old ones that had fallen by the wayside while I was focused on Amanda and David. Most importantly, I recognized that standing up for myself hadn't destroyed my relationship with my daughter. It had created the possibility for a more authentic one. By refusing to be used and disregarded, I had forced a reckoning that ultimately benefited us both. "The irony," I told Dr. Lane during one of our final sessions, "is that by withdrawing the financial support that Amanda and David had come to expect, I actually gave them something more valuable, the opportunity to build their own life on their own terms. And by standing up for myself, I gave myself permission to live authentically too." "That's the paradox of healthy boundaries," she replied with a smile. "They seem divisive at first, but they actually create the space for genuine connection." As I reflect on this journey now, I understand that my daughter's devastating text message was actually a disguised blessing, the catalyst I needed to break free from patterns that were harming us both. Sometimes love means saying no. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give our children is the expectation that they stand on their own feet. And sometimes the path to healing a relationship begins with the courage to potentially lose it. I wonder how many of you have experienced similar situations with your adult children. Have you ever had to establish difficult boundaries with someone you love? Please share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories about family relationships and personal growth. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, it's never too late to reclaim your self-worth and create the life you deserve.